born in 1475 in the island of Lesbos, and son of a Turkic noble, 𝐍𝐨𝐭𝐞𝐬, later known as Barbarossa, was born in the bosom of a potter family in which his two sisters and three brothers would practice their work by creating humble pieces of clay and transporting them to the nearby settlements to sell them using little more than a small boat. Aruj, one of Jacob's older brothers, will handle the boat overseas, while Jacob himself will stay at the workshop, making small crooks. When the family managed to afford to purchase a small sailboat, thanks to the extension of their commercial activities, Jacob and his three elder brothers, Ishak, Aruj, and Elias, left behind their life as artisans and became high seas merchants, looking to trade their products in the eastern Mediterranean. Eventually, they also left behind their profession as daring sailors to become a petty pirate organization, with each of them distributing the work among themselves proportionally. Aruj and Elias will target ships in the adjacent coasts of Syria, Egypt, and the southern Anatolia. Jacob will do the same, but this time in the Aegean Sea, operating from Thessalonica. And finally, Ishak will remain on Lesbos supervising the income of the successful raids. Their chariots, however, were more interesting, as they specifically targeted Christian ships, and especially those bearing the flag of the military hospitalier order of St. John of Rhodes, known in Latin as the Ordo Fratum Hospitalis Sancti Ioannis Rhodiensis. One day, Aruj and Elias were sailing back from a merchant trip when they were attacked by the Knights of the Order of St. John at the height of Tripoli. In the attack, Elias was killed, and Aruj, badly wounded, was taken captive by the Knights to the Brodum castle, by then controlled by the Christian Knights. The whole thing did not end there, however, as Jacob was informed of the whereabouts of his brother, and so he asked 𝐶𝐶, governor of the beautiful province of Antalya, for assistance, and 𝐶𝐶, knowing a favorable result could bring him favors from the Ottoman Sultan, agreed to lay siege to the knights and rescue Aruj from captivity. 𝐶𝐶 gave Jacob a total of 18 galleys to intercept the knights' vessels and take the castle by surprise. The rescue, although risky, was a total success for the young Jacob. Aruj, filled with revenge in his blood, put himself under the command of 𝐶𝐶, now governor of Manisa, at the head of 24 galleys with the sole purpose of sacking and pillaging Italian ports, taking not only the riches of the ports, but also kidnapping men, women, and children to be sold in the fragrant markets of North Africa as slaves. The city of Apulia would become his ultimate target. After returning from his successful raid of Italian coasts, Aruj was venerated as a hero in Mytilene. By this time, 𝐶𝐶 had to escape to Egypt to avoid being assassinated by his brother, now Sultan of the Empire. Yet, Aruj pursued to meet with his protector at Egypt. Aruj's enterprise as a pirate had left him fame and glory among his fellow citizens of the empire, so much so that the governor of Cairo gave him a new vessel to fulfill yet another task, destroying the Christian knights' settlements across the Aegean Sea. Aruj, Elias, and Jacob eventually ended up in the Tunisian court, being welcomed by the Sultan of Tunis and negotiating an agreement. The three brothers would be under the service of the Sultan, allowing him a third of their total earnings, from the raids that is, and in return the Sultan will grant them a safe stop at the port of El-Hajj al-Wadi, the modern-day port city of La Galette. By now, the brothers have partly left behind the knights to focus on raiding Italian and Spanish vessels in the Mediterranean, earning huge sums from the sailors sold as slaves and the riches the ships carried themselves. Their activities did not limit to raids whatsoever, as they also aided Moorish refugees fleeing Christian persecution, bringing them to North Africa. It is here that Aruj earns his nickname Baba Aruj, or Father Aruj in Turkish. Because of phonetic similarities, the Italians understood his nickname as Barbarossa or Redbeard in English. Eerily enough, he actually had a red-looking facial hair, easily distinguishable. One day, after a bloody dogfight against Spanish galleys in 1512, he lost his left arm thanks to an arquebus shot, which also earned him the nickname of Gumus Skull, or the one with the silver R, due to his prothesis. 1513 was a productive year for the brothers, as they managed to assault Valencia, Alicante, Sicily, Sardinia, the Balearic Islands, the Liguria region, Elba, etc. In other words, they were unstoppable. They also raided and captured the port city of Algiers from Spanish hands, with Aruj proclaiming himself as Sultan of Algiers, though he quickly transferred the title of Sultan to the Ottoman Sultan, seeking protection from the Ottomans against Charles V, King of Spain, and the Holy Roman Empire. This move made Aruj be declared Beylik of Algiers, along with receiving a handful of Ottoman troops. Charles V, stressed by the Berber pirates' question, ordered Abu Safyan, the appointed governor of the Spanish-held city of Tlemcen, to attack Aruj at Algiers, although the plan failed ultimately, as Aruj's spies got word of the Spanish plans and surprised Safyan by attacking him at Tlemcen and totally destroying the Spanish garrison. After executing Safyan, that is. Charles V then assumed personal command in the region, determined to drive Aruj out of his domains. He arrived at Oran in 1518 to meet with the governor of the port, Diego de Córdoba, with an army of 10,000 men in the form of tercios, by the time Spain's most efficient units of the age, supported by thousands of Bedouins. What followed was perhaps Aruj's most important defeat since he began his career as a pirate. His garrison of 5,000 men alongside 2,000 Janissaries, Turkey's most elite forces, was annihilated after 20 days of combat. As a result, Tlemcen was back in Spanish hands, and all survivors that remained in the city were executed, among them the infamous Aruj and his brother Ishak. Afterwards, Jacob was now en route to Tlemcen to recapture it in retaliation for his brother's deaths. In the same year of 1518, the port city of Tlemcen had, for the second time in a year, changed of hands, as Jacob successfully annihilated the Spanish garrison once more. By then, Jacob had inherited the title of Beylik of Algiers, and also his brother's nickname, Barbarossa. He quickly showed his leadership capabilities by suffocating a rebellion in Algeria with the help of Sultan Selim III, and also by continuing his 𝐂𝐸ℎ𝐿𝑑𝐷 legacy to raid Spanish and Italian ships in the Mediterranean. Defeated Hugo de Moncada in his advance to reconquer Algiers and reaching the southern coasts of France. He was also responsible for building the docks of Algiers after he captured the Spanish-held castle of El Peñón in 1529. Thank you for listening to my narration. I hope we can count on your support for future videos like this. Be sure to subscribe, like, and comment the video.